This is the Revitalize My Church podcast, created to help churches navigate change and reorient to a new and healthy future. This episode is hosted by the Executive Director of Assist Church Expansion, Nathan Bryant, and his ministry colleague, Bart Blair.
Welcome to another episode of the Revitalize My Church podcast. My name is Bart Blair. I'm the Director of Church Revitalization for Assist Church Expansion. And I'm joined today, as I am always on the first of every month, by Nathan Bryant, who is the Executive Director of Assist Church Expansion. Hello, Nathan.
Hi, Bart.
Good to see you. It's always good to see you. For those of you who are listening and not watching, you can't see that Nathan has a little bit of a halo today. The halo effect. You're traveling, so you must be in a hotel room somewhere.
I am in the windows to my left, so
yeah, we can.
I don't know if it's my best side or not. I think it's
well, I can tell that the window is to your left. That's a bright, shining light on the top of your shiny head. And for those of you, like just to put some context here, for those of you who are watching on our YouTube channel, you will notice that I am wearing my Toronto Blue Jays hoodie. The day that we are recording this, the Toronto Blue Jays are starting their World Series run against the Los Angeles Dodgers. So yeah, I know that we have some friends that are from the LA area that listen to this podcast. Go ahead and leave your ugly comments. But Nathan and I are cheering for the Blue Jays and not the Dodgers in this World Series. Although
it's been a long time coming.
It has been. And it's been a long time since I've lived in Toronto, but after living in Canada for 20 years and raising kids that are all Blue Jays fans, it's hard not to be a Blue Jays fan. Although I will admit, I'm recording in Dallas today and I put on this hoodie this morning. It's gray and kind of rainy outside. But then I walked outside and realized it's 85 degrees with like 100% humidity. So it's not really hoodie weather, but it's the best piece of Toronto gear I have, and I'm ready to watch the game tonight. So anyway, and for some people are listening to this and like, I don't even know what a Blue Jay is. They know what the bird is, but they don't care about baseball at all.
Right.
They're here to learn about church revitalization. And that's what we're going to talk about today. In fact, we're going to do something seasonal today. So if you're listening to this in real time, hopefully it'll be super helpful for you. I've kind of given this episode a working title of how to leverage Christmas for church revitalization. And so this episode is dropping on the 1st of November of 2025. That's the year that we're in. So if you're listening to this in real time, you've only got, 6 weeks, 7 weeks until Christmas itself, but you're really only a few weeks until the Christmas season starts. And I thought, what would be a helpful conversation for us to go through this today? And I just was thinking through some of the coaching calls that I've had with a couple of guys that I'm coaching here, and they're doing some things at Christmas, the Christmas season, that their churches haven't done historically in the past. And I thought, well, this would be a great topic of conversation. Maybe we can spark some creativity with some of the pastors and church leaders that are listening to this podcast episode. Nathan, if I just ask you an open-ended question and ask you why you think that the holiday season, the Christmas season, is a time that churches that are going through some kind of revitalization or renewal, why it would be an effective season of ministry. What are some of your broad topic conversations or starters on that?
Yeah, I think it's amazing that there are 2 seasons of the year in our Christian culture that people will actually come to church if you ask them, and feel a little guilty if they don't come, and that's Christmas and Easter. And why not leverage that season? And is there something about, even if you're not a Christian person or go to church or whatever, there's something about the Christmas season that is just warm and inviting, and you want to connect to your community locally as well as to your family. So there's lots of reasons why you just leverage the opportunity that's right in front of you. The easiest ask that you're ever going to have for church is Christmas or Easter. So how to maximize that is really a great conversation to have, and one each person should be taking advantage of as best as we can as we're trying to reach people who wouldn't normally come into the church building. This is a really a great season to try to work on a strategy to engage them and to connect with them, because you may not have another opportunity. So this one's a good one.
Yeah, I think, there are all kinds of statistics that I've read and I've heard over the years. I know that Tom Rainer and Church Answers, they talk a lot about the power of inviting people to church. They also state that people are more likely to attend a Christmas service than they are an Easter service. And so if there's ever a great season in which the people in your own church can be inviting people, the Christmas holiday season is one where there's a really good chance that you get a yes, whether that's for a regular weekend service during the month of December, a special event or activity that you're having during the month of September. I said September, December, that's the Christmas month, December, or Christmas Eve services themselves. There are statistics that say that 60 to 70% of Americans claim that they will typically attend some sort of church Christmas service during the year. So that's a lot of people. And a lot of those people, they just need an invitation. They need to know that your church exists. So
That's right.
I don't think the issue here is really whether or not people are willing to come. I think smaller churches and those that have been stagnant or in decline for some time don't necessarily think about Christmas as an optimum outreach window. They're not planning for it. They're not even aware of what the value or the opportunity proposition is. And so they just don't do anything. In fact, one of the guys that I was coaching, he's only been at the church for a year. His first Christmas, he'd only been there for 2 months, and they did a Christmas event of some sort. And he said it was the first time the church had done anything for Christmas in like 8 years. And he's like, I can't believe this church hasn't done anything. Well, again, they just didn't realize what the value and the opportunity was there. So, Nathan, we were talking a little bit before we started recording on mistakes that churches might make or things that they might avoid. And mistake number one, what would you say mistake number one is for a church that's planning or preparing to utilize the Christmas season for outreach?
I think the first mistake is they don't plan or prepare. That's the big one. But I think also they try to swing bigger than they are. That to me is a big one, because they're wanting to compete with other people, but they're also thinking back nostalgically about what the church maybe used to do or something. They're thinking about trying to create this amazing experience. I think you want to try to figure out, how can we accomplish something that is really high quality, that reflects who we are to the people we're inviting to. We're not like 1 week they're coming into the service, this amazing experience, and the next week it just the drop between the delta between the two is so big. But yet is done so well and done in such a way that the people of the church are excited to invite their friends to it. I think the biggest reason for retention for people who come to something for Christmas is going to be that they're connected to somebody who's already in the church and their experience was so positive that they'll want to come back. Mm-hmm. So when you have the combination of both the experience that they're having, that, hey, this is a place that is really meaningful and I can learn about God here and I can connect here and it's safe for me, but also I know people here, those two things make it more likely that those people will stick. So sometimes when guys are planning stuff, they don't actually include enough information to really excite their congregation about what they're doing so that they're prepared to invite their neighbors. And that means you have to have enough runway to do that, to communicate, but you have to have a plan for how you're communicating to your people, what they're doing, how they're involved, and that they're really truly excited about the opportunity and experience you're going to present for the community. And then the experience when people come to it, how is this experience going to be received? What are we doing in this experience that's designed to help people connect with us, connect with Jesus and the message of Christ, but want to come back? They'll want to come back again. And oftentimes when I'm talking to pastors that are preparing for these times, I'm like, this message, I want you to give it 2 to 3 times more work than any other message you're going to speak this season. Because if we're going to spend all of our time inviting our friends to come to it, I want you to give your very best effort so they'll want to come back and hear you again. Because the number one reason why usually people come back is they connected with the communicator and they feel like they can learn something from him and they'll want to come back to hear more of what he's saying. So anyway, all those things combined is, how are we doing something that is done well, that our people are excited about? How are we preparing for it so that the experience that people have is great, and then they have a reason to come back as well? So those three components to me are what's most important. Whatever you're planning to do, however you're planning to do it, that's what I would think about.
As I think about many of my friends and ministry colleagues that might be listening to this podcast episode, I know one of the challenges that many of them face is that they don't have a large pool of musicians or artists or creative people to help them pull off these events. And I want to let them off the hook by sort of doubling down on something that you talked about there, and that is that connection is more important than production. If you're a smaller church, you're just simply not going to have the budget, the people to compete with the big church or the mega church that's in your community or in your neighborhood, and you don't need to. You may not even be best positioned to have an event at the same time that the other bigger churches are. I was talking about this with you before we started recording. That's, I live less than 15 minutes away from two very, very large churches that will run multiple days worth of Christmas Eve services. The level of musicianship and artistry and creativity in their Christmas Eve services, the communicators that they have, like one of them is a world-renowned communicator who has one of the top podcasts on Apple right now. Like, we can't compete with that. We've got Bart and a guitar. Like, that's the music. That's the music and the artist team. So we won't try to compete with that. We're going to emphasize an event or an activity that puts a premium on people's connection with other people.
Absolutely.
And creating an experience that makes them feel seen, known, and connected, because what's going to get them back isn't necessarily going to be my musical skills. It's not going to necessarily be the production of the thing that we do. It's going to be, hey, there were some really nice people there, and I made some really good connections. And I think maybe this is a group of people that I could spend more time with. And perhaps if this person has some spiritual questions or some spiritual interest, they feel that it's a safe place for them to begin their spiritual journey with our church family. So that's kind of the angle that I would take there.
Bart, one more thing I think when I think about this is that, oftentimes the smaller church that's trying to revitalize or restart or starting thinks they have to compete with the big one, but they actually have something that the big church doesn't have. They have a small, intimate engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would lean into that intimacy, that smallness, and create this experience that, the other thing I think some guys do is they try to do all this other stuff, but people are actually coming because they want to hear the Christmas songs. They want to have this sense of remembrance of how it used to be. So sometimes people get a little bit too cute in what they're trying to deliver, and just create a really small, intimate experience that's warm and family friendly. And you don't even have to kill it. Like, light some candles, sing some Christmas carols, have some hot chocolate. I mean, it doesn't take a big budget to do that.
Download some karaoke tracks and use karaoke tracks, or even have a karaoke Christmas carol party. And you might discover that you have some musicians in your church that you didn't know you had, right?
Yeah.
Like, I love that idea. I love the idea. One of the phrases that I hear being used a lot in the church revitalization coaching space is pastors being asked whether or not their current ministry model is closer to 1950 or 2050. And, of course, the purpose of that question is to try to convict guys to say, well, if I look at my ministry model, it's probably closer to 1950 than it is 2050, and we're in time closer to 2050. But I will tell you this. If your ministry model is closer to 1950 when it comes to Christmas or Christmas sentiment, go all the way back to 1950. Go ahead and create that nostalgic, this is what Christmas could be, should be, the warm, pull out the people want the warm, fuzzy experience.
Absolutely. They want this remembered experience that they cherish, and they're looking for that. So, I mean, I think that's piece of it is you're meeting expectation for people coming to it. And it doesn't take a lot, I don't think, to deliver on that.
Yeah.
I also would say, I would try to find a partner who can help me. If I don't have the musicians, or if I don't have whatever, maybe there's a church or an individual that you can contact, or even pay somebody to come who has the excellence to kind of deliver in one or two spaces that you can't really deliver at. I can remember when we were starting Grace Community Church, we didn't have enough people to manage the children's thing. We had one who run it. So we actually had to hire some people to come and actually watch the children, because the people who were excellent at music actually had to sing. He couldn't watch the kids. So we had to figure it out as we're navigating, the experience that we're trying to deliver to people. But you can kind of find a way forward. But I would say, don't. People want that warm, cozy, connected experience, and it doesn't really take a whole lot to deliver on that. It's just more thinking through how you're going to create that experience in a positive and warm, friendly way. And I would also say that you can do something to focus on the children. People love their kids, and their kids love Christmas. So you're already got two winners there, and there's lots of things you could do creatively that doesn't cost a lot, but that can make a really big impact for a family to have a great experience when they come and connect with your what you're doing for your church family.
Yeah, I want to spend some time in a minute, kind of contrasting the difference between inviting people to church services or a Christmas Eve service versus other Christmas engagements that you might be able to do that aren't necessarily a Sunday morning or a Christmas Eve type of service
Yeah.
experience. Because I think there's value in both. But I want to lean into the Christmas service, whether that's a Sunday morning or Christmas Eve, for just a minute. One of the mistake that you highlighted there is not planning, or I would say not planning early enough that you can get a game plan together and communicate to your church family what you're inviting people to, how they can participate in that. I think the second mistake is not really thinking about who in the community you're going to invite and putting a program and language together that's going to resonate with those people. Basically using churchy language or overly churchy invitations. Our instinct as a church is to say, come worship the birth of Jesus with us. But the vast majority of people in your community are not looking for a place to worship the birth of Jesus. What they're looking for is a place that their family can have a meaningful Christmas experience and create some memories. So language that I might use would be, create a Christmas experience that you and your family will never forget, or find hope and peace and connection this holiday season, or join us for a meaningful community gathering as we celebrate the Christmas season together. Really try to avoid language that's worshipy or too this is going to come across as wrong, too Christ-centric. Because even though, I know we're going to place Jesus at the center of what we do. My wife and I hosted a Christmas Carol sing-along in our home last year because we were in a pre-church plant launch phase. We had over 40 people in our house for a Christmas Carol sing-along and potluck. And all we had to do was say, hey, we're going to gather and sing some Christmas carols and share a meal together. And we had 40 neighbors that showed up to our house. We chose to sing only traditional Christmas carols. We didn't do the, anything about Santa Claus or reindeer or anything like that, even though I think people were expecting a little bit more of that. We didn't do it. We did some Christmas trivia, and we mixed in a little bit of Bible Christmas trivia with some more, culturally relevant Christmas trivia. And then I did an 8-minute devotional focused primarily on the birth of Jesus Christ and the importance of Jesus and why it was important to us as a family and this church that we're getting started. Yeah. So Jesus was the center, but we didn't invite people to come and place Jesus at the center. We just invited them into our home to sing some Christmas carols and share a meal. But once they got there was no doubt that it was all about
Christmas
Jesus.
themes are already strong for people to want.
Yeah.
Joy and light and love and hope. Everybody wants that in their life. Everybody wants it in their life.
Yeah.
So there's so many positive themes about what Christ did and who he is that you can leverage to connect with people to what they want to bring to their family and to bring to their lives. So yes, yeah. The word worship is tricky because people who don't know God, they don't even know what that is, for one. And for two, that's not why they're coming. But would they want to come to learn about why we have hope, or how we can have hope, or why we have light in our life and how we can have light? Like there's so many wonderful things in the Christmas theme. One big thing for me too, Bart, is true for any kind of event or activity that you're doing in a church. I always tell people it's almost a waste of time to do something if you don't have a next step for people to come to. So if we're going to put a lot of energy into have a Christmas season activity, you might do something earlier in the season, which I encourage churches to do something earlier and do something in the service and do a Christmas Eve. Do all three. That's what I encourage churches to consider doing. I know that may be a lot to do, but I think people are willing to come to stuff, especially if you space it out. But with everything that you're doing, whatever you're going to decide to do in terms of your strategy, what are you asking people to come to after that? What's the next step? And how are you promoting that, preparing that, and communicating that so they'll actually want to come? They'll actually take that next step. Either with, I like to have something that's connected to the children that are coming, that the next step for them is also going to be something that they will want to come to, as well as for the adults. So thinking through the programming you're doing, the timing of those programs, but also what is the next step? I want them to keep coming, of course, to learn more about this Jesus we're speaking of.
Yeah, I typically refer to it as the January callback. So while you're planning your event that's taking place in December, again, whether it's a church service, a Christmas Eve service, or some sort of community engagement, I say you want to already have a plan for your January callback, some sort of winter connection event. It could be, like a skating party or a movie night, or it could be a community service project. Maybe it's we're going to get together and we're actually going to go serve in our community in some capacity. One thing I know several churches that I've connected to will do often in January is some sort of finance seminar, where it's like, hey, we're going to do a Saturday morning 3-hour finance
spent
seminar.
out for Christmas.
Yeah, everybody's made a New Year's resolution to get out of debt in the next year, and we want to help you do that. We're going to do a finance seminar on a Saturday, or we're going to run a cycle of Financial Peace University. Maybe it's a newcomer brunch or coffee and conversation time with the pastor. Just some sort of thing that you have on the calendar, and everyone in your church knows that when we have new people come to this Christmas event, that the next thing that we're asking them to do is not to come back to church next Sunday, even though that invitation is there if that's what they want, but we want another relational touch point with them as soon as we can have that happen. And so, let's say we're doing a Christmas Carol sing-along and potluck on December 15th. I want to have something probably by, the 8th to the 15th of January, sometime within a month period where I'm like, hey, I've got another opportunity for them to connect with us and engage with us. So what's that next big thing on your calendar, which isn't necessarily have to be a big thing, but it needs to be an intentional thing.
Yeah, but even the things that you're communicating, like I said, I think the number one reason why people come back is because of the person who's communicating. There's other reasons why as well.
Yeah.
But that message that you're delivering on that particular event needs to be done in such a way that people want to come back to hear you. But when are they going to come back and hear next? How can you leverage that transition from that particular time that you had the opportunity to communicate to want them to come and actually have interest in what you're going to share next, and hopefully pull them back to consider coming to some more services and ultimately come to know Jesus if they didn't at that one. So
now that makes the presupposition that the event or the thing that you're going to do in December is going to be related to a church service type of gathering. And what I do want to do is encourage churches to think about alternatives to that, because you simply might not have the capacity or the desire. You might be in such a transitional spot in the life of your church that it's best not to say, hey, a Sunday morning is where we want you to be, or the church building is where you want to be. So think about other ways that you can mobilize your church family to do some sort of community engagement. Maybe it is something like I've got one church that I work with that has a big fire pit behind their building, and I'm like, hey, why don't you just do like a fire pit party where kids can make s'mores, and you have some outdoor games and an outdoor barbecue, and just kind of call it your Christmas party, and just make it a Christmas party. And maybe there isn't a message or a devotional tied to it. It's purely designed to be relational and a connecting event. Maybe it is like a community meal. Maybe you have a big fellowship hall and you can do a community meal, or maybe you can do something that provides meals for people in your community who don't have a place.
Yeah, I love that community service piece.
Right?
It'd be awesome.
Maybe you can identify some families or some people in the community that would like to have Christmas decorations put up, but maybe they're shut-ins or they're older folks and they can't do it. And you can mobilize a team of people and invite some friends and family and colleagues from your neighborhood to go and actually help participate in those things. And it's rubbing shoulders with people in your church family without necessarily being at a church event. But even if you're going to do those things, there still needs to be a callback, the next step. Don't create that one event and make it a one event only. It's like, hey, if this was neat for you to come and help us put up Christmas decorations for, some elderly folks in our community, or to be a part of our fire pit bonfire Christmas party or whatever, we're going to do something else in January, and we want to invite you to that. So those are some things that I just want you to be creative, think outside the box. You don't have to do what every other church is doing. I think that's another mistake that churches will often make, is that they try to copy what other churches are doing. figure out where you are and who you are authentically as a church family, as a community, and do something that makes sense for you and for your church family, and just try to make it as authentic as possible.
That's interesting. You're talking about doing something altruistic. I think that's, most people, when they think about that, they're thinking about the people they're serving, which is really important, of course, that what you're doing is meaningful and is making a difference. But your neighbor likely would be willing to come help you help somebody
Yeah.
as opposed to come to your church.
Right.
And so you can leverage that for connecting them to more people who know and love Jesus and doing something good for others, and also ultimately connect them to the gospel. And so I think lots of people just focus on the good they're doing, which is wonderful, and you should be doing it. But you can, our society and people want to be good and want to do good to others. And if you can provide that opportunity for them to do that in an authentic way, you can allow them to do it, as well as connect them to more people who know and love Jesus, and ultimately to the gospel eventually. So,
I mean, we're doing a thing with our church plant this year where we're doing kind of I'll call it an angel tree project, because that's probably what most people would be familiar with. It's not exactly, but we're taking 15 families or children from the local school district, and we're basically putting together Christmas gift packages for them.
Wonderful.
And we took 15, aware of the fact that we probably only have enough people in our church plant core right now to handle maybe 5 or 6. And so what we're actually going to do is invite some of our neighbors and other people from our relational circles to participate in this with us on behalf of our church plant. Yeah. So our expectation is that there are some other people in our community, people that we're connected to, who would love to participate in an event like this. But the reality is the local school district, believe it or not, works through the local churches to do this. So if you're not connected to a local church, you don't even have a chance to participate in it. So
or maybe be aware that it's even happening.
Yeah. There's no opportunity to participate in it because it's all done through the local churches. So we'll actually use it as an opportunity to make more connections and invite people who are not necessarily part of our church to be able to participate in something that is, generous in nature. And again, just strengthen relationships with people that we know that we're connected with who are far from God, who we'd love to have come and try our church at some point. But we know that there's just a lot of relational investment that has to happen before those people are going to be ready to do that.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. Christmas is the greatest time of the year. We have the most amazing story to share, that God came into the world and gives us hope and light and life. And Jesus is the answer for everything. So, I would say, how do we maximize? It is wonderful that the world actually, for the most part, in that small season of about a month and a half, you can talk about Christmas, you can talk about Jesus and his birth. And so how do we leverage it, man? How do we make sure we maximize the opportunity that's right there in our culture towards the gospel and towards reaching people for Christ?
Yeah. The last mistake that I want to highlight is that the biggest mistake you could make is doing nothing because you think you can't, right?
Yeah.
You think that you can't. So do something. And if you lack creativity, Google it. Get on Google, get on ChatGPT, get on Perplexity or Grok, and just start asking questions. Hey, I have a church of 25 people, and we have a budget of $200. Give me 10 creative ideas that I could use this $200 in my church family to make an impact in our community this Christmas season. Don't be afraid to do something different that you've never tried before. You'll be surprised at how energizing and exciting it is for the people in your church family to realize that we can leverage the holiday season, we can leverage Christmas as a way to reach more people with the gospel, to connect our church more deeply into our community. And I just want to encourage you to do something.
Amen. Amen and amen.
Amen and amen. Well, Nathan, I think we should wrap this up. This has been a great and fun conversation. I love if anybody's listening to this and they want to brainstorm with me, I'd be happy to connect with you. Just fill out the form on our website at revitalizemy.church, and I'd be happy to set up a call. and just brainstorm with you and your church about what you might be able to do this Christmas season to reach more people in your community. I do want to remind you that we release 2 episodes every month, one on the 1st of the month and one on the 15th of the month. And if you haven't yet subscribed wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, make sure that you do so that you don't miss any of our future episodes. And if you haven't ever left a rating or review, you can do that. And if you know someone who might be able to benefit from this podcast, make sure that you share this episode with them. We've got more resources on our website, revitalizemy.church, some blog posts and some other forms and things that might be helpful to you. So be sure to go and check that out. On behalf of Nathan, I'm Bart. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the show.